Poker Pro and personal coach Kenna James here to help better your games both on and off the poker felt. Now, today I'm going to be talking about the 10 fundamental mistakes that people make during the game. And I have my little cheat sheet here that I scribbled out. I'm going to share with you what I feel is the top 10 things that opponents do that are clearly a mistake. And I use this to identify a good game. When I'm looking at a game and I'm trying to figure out, should I play in this game or not, I want to be able to identify the mistakes people are making. And some of them are so basic, you may know them, but there may be some others on this list that are insightful for you. So here we go. Number one, generally just poor mechanics. They don't hold their cards well. People can see their hand. They fumble with their chips. They don't know how to handle the tools of the game. They might not know the rules or the proper procedures. This is the first identifier for pros to identify the novices or the weak players in the game. So you always want to have good, strong fundamentals. Two is generally poor technique. Now, when I mean technique here, I'm talking about they bet when they should check, they call when they should fold, they raise when they should call, etc. The five basic actions, right, of a poker player are check, bet, call, fold, and raise. And if you're not taking the proper action for the situation you face, I call that generally poor technique. So that's a quick identifier. When somebody's betting a hand like two pair on a four to a straight or four to a flush on board into multiple opponents, you know they don't really have a good, strong grasp of the fundamental techniques. Number three is, what do I have here? Plays too many hands. That's an obvious one, but so common with new players. I mean, poker is about really playing these key hands that were dealt and knowing the value of those hands. And the other 90% of the time we're folding. But generally a novice player or a new player to the game likes to play. They're not there to fold. So they get involved in far too many pots. Number four, plays too passively. So when they do play, they tend to check and call rather than bet and raise and take the lead. And that's the easiest player to beat, the one that plays passively and plays too many hands. Five, gives off tells while they're playing their hand. Whether that's emotional tells, they wear how they feel about the strength of their hand or what comes on the board on their face or in their body, or whether that's physical tells, whether how they hold their chips or look at their hand, or whether it's betting tells, meaning the size of the bets in relationship to the pot. Oftentimes, players who think that poker is all about bluffing will bet strong when they're weak and weak when they're strong. Very simple betting tell. And so when you pick up on those, you can give a great indication on the strength of someone's hand. Six, goes on tilt with an emotion, and then it compromises their technique. So they get upset somebody's raising their blind, and they try to fight back on a personal level. They take the game personally, and it affects them emotionally, and that anger usually ends up defeating themselves. Number seven, I have ineffective bet sizing. So when they're making a bet, the raise sizing or the bet sizing is not effective to what they're trying to accomplish. And so oftentimes they get a response, an unanticipated response, or they're not able to create or foster the situations, influence those situations that they want to create for the type of hand that they have. Eight, they draw to hands with unfavorable odds, so drawing poorly. One of the basic principles of poker is don't draw bad and don't draw dead. Always leave yourself an out. And so when you're drawing with unfavorable odds, we call that chasing. You're chasing to try and catch up to make a hand, and oftentimes taking the wrong odds in relationship to the probability of making that hand. And in the long term, you just can't win. So the math just catches up to you. Nine, I call it the ninth biggest mistake is they don't keep records. How are you going to know that? Just ask somebody. Do you track your results? A lot of players do not track their results because they can't stand looking at the losses time and time again. Barry Schulman once said, I love this, he says, you should always track towards your goals of what you're trying to achieve, because the mind, it can't accept defeat. So you'll either do one of two things. You'll stop tracking or you'll accomplish your goal. So one of the biggest mistakes that younger or immature players make is they don't keep records, and they don't track. They don't find it necessary. And 10, let's see, what do I have here on number 10, which is poor game selection. Mistakes that fundamental mistake people make is they're playing in the wrong game. And if you're a competitive player that's playing for money, you should play in the most profitable game. So many times I see players playing in a game, and right on the table next to them is a 10 times better game, but they won't even make the effort to go to the front desk and put themselves on the list to move to that different game. So poor seat selection, poor game selection, a fundamental mistake that players often make. So there you go. So there's 10 fundamental mistakes players make. I learn to identify them in your opponents and mentally say, okay, this is the mistake. And so you know when you're playing in a good game. And then conversely, of course, you, by doing that and looking outside yourself, you'll know as you identify them in others not to make them yourself. And that is certainly going to help you better your game. Thank you for joining me. I'm Kenneth James. I hope to see you on a final table real soon. Enjoy the journey.